What is up, potty people? How are we all feeling today? Are you wishing you had a boat right now? That's why you're here, right? Because you don't have a boat. It's a holiday weekend. If it's your first time here today and you are here on a holiday weekend, you do get a special gold star in heaven. The Lord just told me that, so welcome. And that's probably not true at all, but I'm glad you're here today. If it's your first time here today, my name is Craig, and my wife Patty and I pastor here, and we're just glad that you're here hanging out with us. So thanks for coming, and I hope you have a good time and decide to come back. Why not, right? I've been doing this for a little while, preaching that is. My very first time to be asked to preach, I was 16 years old. Some of you are like, how old are you? I'm 53, if you were wondering. 16 years old, I got called up from the dugout, right? I wasn't even really in the dugout, but I got called up to preach at a mission in downtown Detroit in Cass Corridor. If you know anything about Detroit, Cass Corridor was the worst of the worst of the worst. And I got the call, you know, when you should come preach to some, so homeless people would come in and they had to listen to a word before they could get fed. So it wasn't like they were really there to hear. But that didn't matter to this 16-year-old boy, because I got called up to preach the gospel of Jesus Christ. I'm going to shuck the corn. I'm going all in, baby. I'm going to use all my skills, all my talents. I knew, beyond a shadow of doubt, thanks, Mom. I knew, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that they were all going to get saved, that revival was going to fall in downtown Detroit, and the whole city was going to be changed because of my message. They were going to come in, homeless people, get saved, and immediately next week be the Fortune 500 leaders of our country. I felt it. I felt it in my bones. I've probably even lied to myself and said, God said. So I got the call. And she said, there's a little lady, she was this tall after I met her. She said, hey, when you get here, don't get out of the car. I'll come get you. I'm going to keep you safe. And I'm thinking, all right, whatever. And I pull up, and it was one of the scariest things I have ever pulled up to in my entire, it was just kind of like, where am I? What, boy, not at home, you know what I'm saying? And this little lady, this is the first time I met her, she was like probably about this tall. She comes up to the car, ting, ting, little white lady. And I'm like, I don't know you. And she goes, I'm her. And I'm like, oh, okay. So she escorts me, like she's going to protect me, but whatever, I'm skinny, I get it. So she escorts me over to the mission. And the door to the mission, I am not making this up, is a literal jail cell door that they had taken and put here. So it's already locked. She's got the warden key, right? She comes, the big swing open. I'm thinking it's going to be empty, right? I'm pumped, I'm primed. I guess I got a few minutes. I step in the room, and that's it. That's it. That's the room. It's about 15 by 15, maybe 20 by 20. There's already 15 or so homeless guys sitting there. It smelled great. They're all sitting there. And she said, we're just like right here. And she said, that room right there, if anybody wants to pray, tell them that room right there. And I'm like, okay. She said, you're on, sweetie. Start preaching. And I'm like, hey, everybody. You know, you don't open with a joke in those moments. You just don't. You just dive in. And I'm preaching, and I'm giving it all I got. I'm feeling it. And the door is like right there, just the prison door. And two guys they're right there at the door. And like one of them's even kind of leaning on the door. And they start a slight altercation. And if you've ever been into an urban environment, altercations that start at all usually go somewhere. It never ends with, hey, man, I was wrong. You have a good day. And so they get louder and louder while I'm trying to preach. And then I realized they must be family, because he said something about he was a son of a something. And then he came back and well, you're a mother of something. And so they're family, right? And so whatever. I don't know. A little weird. And so they get yelling. And the one guy that said something about the mother, he pulled a gun and shot the guy right there. You ever heard a handgun 6 feet away without ear protection? Anyone? I wet myself just a little bit. Shoots him. And the little lady, she's this tall. The little lady, she was sitting in a chair right here to my left. She just gets up and she walks between me and my wonderful congregation. And she says, honey, just keep preaching. And she walks over, she opens the door, she grabs this guy. I don't know how she had the strength, but she grabs this guy underneath the armpits, drags this bloody trail from the door into the prayer room. Praise God, hallelujah. And as she's dragging the guy by, right in front of her, she goes, just keep preaching, honey. And she drags him into the other room, and then I'm just left standing there. I'm like, hey, does anybody want to meet Jesus? He's about to. No, I didn't say that. I didn't say that part. And so I preach, and I'm like, if anybody wants to receive Christ and have prayer, just go into this room with the dead guy, bloody guy, I don't know, just the shot guy, right? How many know nobody responded? I'll help you out. You guys are just going to antagonize me all day, aren't you? Nobody responded, and I stood there in that moment. Have you guys ever gone into a situation where you thought you were going to excel in this environment, and you end up failing? Anybody know what failure feels like? And so, thank you, some honest people. First service, they were like, oh, no, we're perfect, Pastor. Whatever. You failed at being honest. And so, I failed, like what I was set up for my first sermon was a complete and utter failure. Not only did revival not fall in Detroit, somebody got shot while I was preaching. How many know that makes a list somewhere? I don't know what that list is, but I'm on it. And when I left there, I was a failure. And do you think I quit? No, I didn't quit. Do you think I gave up on God? No. Do you think I turned to a life of crime? No. But here's what did happen to me. See, before that, I was passionate and on fire for doing this thing that I knew God had put in me. And because of this failure, what I ended up being was just here. Just here. Maybe I need to explain that a little bit, because some of you might be here. It's like you love Jesus and you love God, and you're in church on a holiday weekend. Good job. Look at you clapping for yourself. I like you even more, right? Just good job. And you look around and you think, well, I'm not the worst guy in the room. And you're probably not. And it's just, you got to that point where it's just another day, another dollar. Just no longer passionate for the things that God has placed in you. Now you're just living life. You're just here. And can I tell you something? That is one of the most difficult things to get out of. And you might not believe me, but being just here, another day, another dollar. You wake up tomorrow, well, if it wasn't a holiday, or maybe some of you, unfortunately, have to go to work tomorrow. You know, whatever it is. You wake up, it's just another day. I'm going to work, and I'm just, do I love Jesus? Yeah. I love Jesus. Do I go to church? Yeah. I'll probably even sign up for a small group. Yeah. But inside, you're just here, because failure has a way of pushing us from our passion to just being here. And today we're going to talk about the apostle/disciple Peter. Okay, now Peter, this is the last one in our Made to Stick series. Peter was one of those disciples. If you've never read the New Testament, we're going to go through his whole story today, okay? So this is great. So hang on, right? I will fit it into 21 minutes. Probably 30. But anyway, so Peter was one of those guys. He was the disciple that was all heart and zeal, and he was always jumping into situations before he ever thought it through. Anybody know somebody like that? It's just like, I'm so excited. I'm volunteering. I don't know what for, but I'm in, right? And that was Peter. In fact, Peter, check this out. So one of the things, Peter, Jesus at one point, he asked the disciples, he says, hey, who do you guys think I am? Who do you say that I am? And Peter jumps in, he says, you are Jesus Christ, the Son of God. And Jesus is like, right on, bro. Fist bump. Yeah, you right, Peter. And then just a few verses later, Jesus goes on and keeps explaining. He's like, I am the Son of God, and I'm going to go to the cross and die. And Peter pulls the Son of God aside and says, hey, we ain't talking about that. Bro, you ain't going to the cross on my watch. That ain't going to happen. And so Jesus had to turn around and correct Peter, give him kind of a front in alignment, you know what I'm talking about? Get him back on track, because Peter was just jumping in. And then you fast forward a little bit to the Last Supper, and they're sitting around the Last Supper, and go home and read this. It's in your Bible. The Bible says, it's in there. The disciples, they're at the dinner table doing the Last Supper, and they start arguing about who's the greatest. No, I'm better than you. No, I'm better than you. No, I'm better. And so they're arguing, and you know Peter's all into it because Jesus has to correct Peter like he has to call him out. Look at this, Luke 22. He says, Simon Peter, that's his name, so don't be confused with the Simon and the Peter. It's Peter. Simon, Satan has asked to sift each of you like wheat, but I have pleaded in prayer for you, Simon, that your faith should not fail. So when you have repented and turned to me again, strengthen your brothers. What he's basically saying is, hey, Peter, you are going to fail. I guarantee it. Failure is not an option. It's a done deal. You're going to fail, but in your failure, I'm praying that your faith sticks. And then he goes on to tell Peter, he said, in fact, I'm so guaranteed you're going to fail. Before the rooster crows tonight, you're going to deny you even know me 3 times. And what does Peter say? Come on, you guys ever read this story? Peter's like, bro, ain't going to happen. I got your back, Rabbi. You know what I'm saying? I'll go to the mat with you, bro. I'm all in. I will never deny you. Ever, ever, ever. Okay? And so then, y'all still with me? So then they leave the dinner table and they go to the garden to pray. And Jesus says, hey, Peter, James, John, pulls his 3 favorites aside and he's like, hey, I need you guys to pray with me. And so they all start praying together. And what does Peter do? Nobody knows. Okay, I know the story. I'll tell you. It's okay. Just sit there. Jesus is praying and Peter starts praying and then he falls asleep. Oh, I got your back after this nap. Right? He falls asleep, and Jesus wakes him up like, bro, can you not pray with me for just a little bit? And Peter's like, yeah. The dinner is just so bloated. That lamb, it was good, but I just can't keep my eyes open. And they start praying, and Peter falls asleep again. And Jesus wakes Peter up and is like, bro, I know you want to pray, but you're failing again. But while you're up, here they are. And so they come, and that's when they come and arrest Jesus. And they arrest him. And Peter jumps in and he's going to cut a guy's head off. But he can't even do that. He misses and cuts the guy's ear off. Go read it. It's amazing. You didn't know that was in there, did you? You should read your Bible. It's amazing. Because you know, it's like, oh, well, he was trying to take his ear off. No, when you swing a sword at somebody around this area, what are you trying to do? Take their head off. And what does he do? He misses, takes his ear off. Peter can't even do that right. And so then they arrest Jesus and they take him to Caiaphas' house. And so the Bible tells us that Peter follows back, follows in the distance, follows. And he follows all the way up. And now Jesus is in this house. He's being interrogated. He's being roughed up and abused a little bit. And the Bible says that Peter is outside in the courtyard, warming himself by a charcoal fire. And there around that fire, somebody comes up and they say, hey, I know you. You're with Jesus. And Peter's like, no, you can't pin that on me. That kid ain't mine. You know what I'm saying? You can't pin. Okay, he didn't say that part. You can't pin that on me. No way. And he's like, okay. And that person walks up. Another person comes up and goes, you're with him. I recognize that accent. You're from Galilee. You're not from around here. And Peter's like, no, man. No. I don't even know that guy. And then the third time, he does it 3 times. Somebody else comes up and they ask him, you're with Jesus? And Peter's like, no. And he curses and he just storms off. Okay, so check this out. Matthew 26:75. Suddenly, when he denied him the 3rd time, suddenly, Jesus' words flashed through Peter's mind. Before the rooster crows, you will deny 3 times that you even know me. And what did Peter do? He went away weeping bitterly. I need you to understand the amount of shame that Peter's walking with. Peter had spent over 3 years, roughly, following Jesus, eating with him, hanging out with him, living in community with Jesus, promised him that he would have his back, that he would never deny him. I know you've probably never promised God something and didn't follow through. I know, maybe just me. But Peter did that. And so he's walking in all of this shame. And imagine what's going through his mind. You probably don't have to imagine too much because it's the same thing that goes through all of our minds on a regular basis. We want to do right. We want to do something good. We even say, God, I'm with you. I will stand up for you here. I will do this for you here. And then we don't do it, and we fail at it, and this shame comes on us, and then we start thinking the same thing Peter was thinking. Well, I should have said this. I could have done this in the garden. I should have said this, and I could have done this. And we play it over and over again while the shame just builds in our hearts. Fill in the blank. It's the should haves and the could haves that pile on shame and push us to living in aloneness. I'm going to repeat that. It's the should haves and the could haves that pile on shame and push us into living in aloneness. So it pushes Peter to a place where he no longer even feels connected to the disciples. He hasn't earned it. Are you all still tracking with me? He feels like he has fallen from grace. He feels like he's out of it. How do I know that? Because check this out. So Jesus dies on the cross, right? Everybody just nod at me. Give me a good Methodist amen. Okay? Jesus dies on the cross. He's buried for 3 days, and he comes back to life. And then if you guys remember the story, 2 ladies go to the tomb. They're going to put spices on the body and do all this stuff. The tomb is already open. There's some angels there, and they're like, behold, he's no longer here. He done moved, right? And so that's great. And then Mark 16, verse 7 says this. This is the angels talking to them. Now, go and tell his disciples, and what? No, I thought Peter was one of the disciples. Go tell the disciples, and don't forget Peter. See, because Jesus knew what kind of shame and failure Peter was walking in. Theologians tell us that Peter wasn't even at the crucifixion, that he wasn't there because of the shame of failing and betraying. Judas betrayed in one way and ended up killing himself. Peter betrayed him and ended up killing himself inside with shame and depression. But he got the memo. Go tell the disciples and Peter. So Peter shows up, and the Bible shows that Peter sees Jesus a few times, his resurrected body, but it's still uncomfortable because there's still something in Peter. Have you guys ever been in okay, I know you have, so just even if you're going to lie to yourself, have you ever been in a relationship where everything's fine, but then something goes wrong in that relationship, whether it be friends or, whatever, just something goes wrong, and so you part ways and it's kind of ugly, and then you see that person like months later? Come on, somebody. And you're being socially cordial, but what's going on the inside is bleh. Right? Some of you experience that when you come to South Point. You see somebody from your past and you're like, oh, good God, no. There's got to be another church around here, right? And you're doing your best to be socially cordial, and that's fine, but you know what's going on inside of you. And that's where Peter is. When Peter sees Jesus a few times, and I'm going to explain how we know all this in just a second. So when Peter sees Jesus these couple of times of being resurrected, he's got that feeling inside because he failed God. He failed Jesus. He didn't line up and measure up to what he had promised. All right? And so here's what Peter says in John 21. So he's seen Jesus a few times resurrected. John 21:3, he says, Simon Peter said, I'm going fishing. Can I get a good in the house? I'm going fishing. Well, and we'll come too, they all said. So they went out in the boat, but they caught nothing all night. Now, some people say, well, Peter used to be a fisherman, a professional fisherman, so he's just going to blow off some steam and have a little fun. Au contraire, mon frère, no fisherman fishes all night and catches nothing for fun. You don't fish all night and catch nothing and say, that was so much fun. No, you should have been taking a nap, right? And so that's where he's at. What is Peter doing? Peter is going back to his old profession. What was Peter before he met Jesus? He was a fisherman. And so Peter is going back. You got to understand this. The pain of failure and the shame that is in him is so great. He goes back. He does the same thing we all do. When the pain and shame is in us, we cover it in a thin blanket of busyness and distraction because we don't want to deal with what's underneath. So we just find ourselves busy. Go back to work. Another day, another dollar. Keep on trucking, baby. Just keep on going, keep on going, keep on going. Just cover it up. Don't deal with what's going on. Okay, so you with me on the story? So, are you guys not? What, we moved the awesome student section over here? What's up with this? Look at all the students. Yeah. Ooh. So, okay, anyway. So the disciples are all in the boat, and Jesus shows up again on the beach in his resurrected body. John 21:5. He says, he called out, and you can read later on, the boat is about 100 yards offshore, okay? So he called out, fellows, and that word, in some translations, it's brethren, but the real Greek definition of this word is little boys. And I love that, because as guys, ladies might not get this, but if you want to just have fun, right, with another guy or whatever, just kind of poke the bear, you know what I'm saying? What's up, kid? What's up, boy? You know what I'm saying? I mean, just, and that's Jesus. Jesus is not this guy. He knows his boys. He's like, hey, little boys. Hey, fellows. Have you caught any fish? No, they replied. Then he said, throw out your net on the right-hand side of the boat, and you'll get some. So they did, and they couldn't haul in the net because there were so many fish in it. Now, if you are a churchgoer, if you read the Bible, I'm glad. But when I read this miracle, you might think, that sounds familiar. Like, that's like a repeat miracle. There's not a lot of repeat miracles, but that's a repeat miracle. And you would be right, because with the first time Jesus met Peter, he was fishing. He was a professional fisherman, and they didn't catch anything. And Jesus said the same thing, roughly. He said, hey, cast your net on the other side out there. And they did, and they had so many fish, they had to call another boat over to haul the fish in. Isn't it awesome that Jesus is so encouraged and so loving the relationship with you that he is willing to redo a miracle to restore the relationship with you? That's awesome. That's how much he loves us. And so, when they get the fish, Peter recognizes, snap, that's Jesus. And so Peter, the Bible says that Peter jumps in the water. Now, it doesn't say he dove. It was not eloquent. He just, Jesus? Let me tell you something. When you're hurting, when you're struggling, that is the best solution every time. It doesn't have to be eloquent. It doesn't have to be awesome. It doesn't have to be special. Just jump as fast and as far as you can towards the master. He'll make it all right every single time. Okay, so he jumps in, and so get this, John 21:9. When they got there, okay, so Peter jumps in. Let me catch you up. Peter jumps in, and the disciples have to row the boat to the shore, but they're only 100 yards off, so you know the guys in the boat are thinking, Peter, the shore is literally right there, bro. We're basically rowing faster than you're swimming. Okay, when they got there, when they got to the beach, they found breakfast waiting for them. Jesus can cook. Come on, somebody. They found breakfast waiting for them. Fish cooked over a charcoal fire and some bread. Bring some of the fish you've just caught, Jesus said. Now come and have some breakfast. And so they all sit down around this charcoal fire, eating the breakfast that Jesus prepared. And I'm not really sure how much Peter could eat. Was he out fishing all night? Sure. But have you ever tried to sit down and have food with somebody that you have a broken relationship with? Anybody? You're being cordial, but it's not dealing with what's really there. And it's interesting that it's a charcoal fire. So fire is mentioned several times in the Bible, obviously. You know, there's fire all over the place. But only 2 times in the entire New Testament does it use the specific word charcoal fire. Guess when it was? It was here on the beach where Jesus is cooking food, and the other time is the charcoal fire where Peter stood over warming himself when he denied Christ. It's only 2 places. And we all know a charcoal fire smells completely different than a regular wood fire. And we know nowadays, neurologists have taught us that smell is the one sense that connects our memory banks. Like you can smell something, like you can smell popcorn, and you're immediately taken back to like a favorite movie that you saw while you were having popcorn. You know what I'm talking about? You can smell, strawberry lip gloss and snap back to your 8th grade girlfriend. Come on, can I get a good witness in the house? Strawberry lip balm. What? But, but a smell takes you back. Jesus doesn't do anything by accident. I think Jesus specifically built a charcoal fire to sit Peter down. And as his nostrils are filled with a smell, it takes him back to the biggest hurt and the biggest betrayal and the biggest shame of his life. And Jesus says, listen, we can eat, but we need to talk about something. Because it's just not right. Because you can go on like you are, Peter. You can just be here. But I created you for so much more than just here. John 21:15 says this, sitting around the fire, after breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, Simon, son of John. And he uses his full name, like the son of John and everything, because, come on, you know, if mama wants your attention, she's going to use your whole name, right? I could be in the woods 2 miles back and hear, Craig Philip Wendell? Yes, ma'am, here I am. What did I do now? Right? Can I? And so he uses his full name, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? Now, than these. These, that Greek word is kind of interesting. There's two camps here, okay? Can we do a little theology for a second? Yeah. Yes? So, one camp is, do you love me more than these? These would be the disciples. Do you love me more than these? That explanation has never fit well with me because basically in that interpretation, what he's saying is, Peter, I need you to look at how much you love me, and I need you to compare your love for me with all these other disciples. And in that comparison, does your love come out on top? Are you better than them? That is not really how Jesus flows, right? The Greek word here is gender neutral, so if you want it, so it can be applied to whatever. So in this same Greek word, other places in the New Testament, it's translated as these things. So do you remember when Jesus had the breakfast all cooked? And what was the first thing he tells his disciples? What did he tell Peter? He said, hey, bring some of the fish you caught. Did he need them? Nope. Breakfast was already done. But Peter brought the fish. So these fish are sitting right there. And Jesus says, Peter, do you love me more than these? Do you love me more than your steady income and your safe job? Do you love me more than these? I mean, you can do this. It's a choice. It's fine. But I called you to not be a fisher anymore. I called you to be a fisher of men. There is a higher calling and passion that God has placed in every single one of us. And we're too often settling for just being here because we're so focused on our shame and our mistakes. I'm not the worst person in the room. I know, but you're still dragging shame and guilt all over the place. Your wounds are showing and they're keeping you from stepping into what God has genuinely called you to do. That's better than you think it is. Okay, so he goes on. John 21:15. We're just going to read through this. People have preached on this forever. Here we go. After breakfast, Jesus asked Simon Peter, Simon, son of John, do you love me more than these? And if you still struggle with it, well, I don't know, Pastor. Maybe it was the disciples. Okay, how about Jesus just pointed at a disciple eating fish so it covers both? Okay. Do you love me more than these? Yes, Lord, Peter replied. You know I love you. Then feed my lambs, Jesus told him. Jesus repeated the question, Simon, son of John, do you love me? Yes, Lord, Peter said. You know I love you. Then take care of my sheep, Jesus said. A third time he asked him, Simon, son of John, do you love me? And Peter was what? Hurt. Hold on to that statement. Peter was hurt that Jesus asked the question a third time. Lord, you know everything. You know that I love you, Jesus said. Then feed my sheep. Now, when I was younger, I used to read this, and I used to think that Jesus was kind of rubbing Peter's face in the shame, right, in front of all the other disciples, you know, just kind of being a little ugly, like, Peter, do you love me? You know I love you. Well, you sure didn't act like it last night. Let's replay that play one more time. Do you love me? Lord, you know I love you. Well, last month I was watching, and you sure weren't acting like it or talking like it. Lord, you know, and beating him down. But see, Jesus is not putting shame on him. What is shame? Shame is where you take someone's past and apply it to their present. Jesus is looking at him, asking him a question, and making him look at the future. If you love me, then go do what I called you to do, and that's feed my sheep. He's not bringing shame. He's bringing revelation, restoration, and setting him on a brand new course, trying to put him back where he belongs. And so he repeats it 3 times. And what did we say? Peter said he was hurt. He was hurt. Why after 3 times? Because as they're sitting by that charcoal fire, it's the 3rd time. The 3rd time, he denied Jesus 3 times. And here, he says he loves him 3 times. And it's the 3rd time where the pain is. It's the 3rd time. Yeah, Lord. That's it right there. Now, a lot of you know that 2 days after Christmas last year, I broke my pinky. It's getting better. Look at there. Broke my pinky. It was like sideways, compound fracture. It was pretty gnarly. I have pictures if you want to see them, but I'm not going to. It's funny, the paramedics came to the scene, and I kid you not, the paramedic came up and he looked at it and he went, "Whoa, that looks like it hurts." I'm like, and they pay you for this, right? I mean, it's just like, whatever. And I said, "Can you fix it?" And he said, "No, not here, man. You're going to have to go see a doctor for that." I said, "Okay." So we load up. I go see a doctor, and I walk into the reception nurse or whatever, and she says, "Can I help you?" I said, "Yeah." And she said, "Oh, my God, that looks like it hurts." I'm like, "How'd you do it? Tell me the story." And I tell her the story. And then she sends me back, and I go to the x-ray room, and the x-ray tech looks at it, and guess what the x-ray, guess what she said? "Oh my God, that looks like it hurts. What happened?" So I tell her the story. They take the x-ray. The doctor comes in, and he looks at it. He goes, "I'm not making this up." He looked at it and went, "Well, that looks painful." I'm like, "You think?" He said, "What happened?" So I tell him the story, and I said, "Okay, you're the doc. Can you fix it?" He went, "No, I can't fix that. You're going to have to go see the chief's hand surgeon up at Methodist whatever in Memphis." I was like, "Okay." So we go to Methodist, and I walk in. Same story. I'll save time. Like every person, "Oh, my God, that looks like it hurts. What'd you do? What happened? What happened?" The head surgeon, hand surgeon, walks in. He doesn't ask any of those questions. He walks over and grabs my hand. And I said, "What the son of a..." I'm just being, I know none of you have ever done that, I'm sure. You know your pastor is human too, right? And I was like, "Hey, if you want to grab a body part, my right foot's not hurting at all. My left foot's fine. My left arm, hand, shoulder, all of it's fine. Help yourself." He said, "Yeah, but that's not where you have the problem." See, when God starts messing in your life, he flies with hands full of grace to the area that you are hurt the most. Everybody else wants to know what happened. They want to know your story, but they don't have the skills to heal you. They can resonate with you. "Oh, that looks like it hurts." Well, duh, moron. See, people just want to know your story. They just want to know the junk. But they have no ability to help you. But God is different. When Jesus starts messing with you, he comes not to the 99% of your life that is totally fine and great. He's going after your deepest wound, your darkest shame, because he knows that when he heals that, if you will allow him to heal that, it will catapult you back into your calling and your passion. You will no longer just be here. Now you'll be set free so you can actually pay attention and bring healing to the people that are around you every single day. But you've ignored them and not seen them because you've been so focused on keeping your shame and your wound covered up with busyness and distractions. And God wants to heal you so you can turn and breathe life into other people. I started reading Johnny Cash's autobiography. Anybody a Johnny Cash fan? Anybody? And it's pretty interesting. He lived a life full of, oh my goodness. To say he did drugs would be an understatement. Understatement. And he had wrecked so many cars. I mean, it's just like chapter after chapter after chapter of all this horrible stuff. And then he had this moment. He was fed up. He was done with life. And he said, I know how I'm going to end it. I'm going to take this flashlight and I'm going to go into this cave. There's a big cave there where he lived. And I'm going to go into this cave as deep as I can until the batteries run out on my flashlight. And then I'm just going to lay down and die. And then no one will ever find me or my body. They'll never know what happened. And I'm just going to be gone. He said that he walked and crawled through this cave for between 2 and 3 hours until the batteries finally ran dead on his flashlight. And he said, okay, I'm done. And he laid down. And he said, in that moment, this feeling came over him. And he said, God has never spoken to me audibly. He said, so it's not that. He said, but it was just a feeling in me that all of my failures, all of my stuff, all of my drug addiction, everything that I had done wrong could be erased like that because there's new life after it. And he said that he accepted that. He accepted that love from the Lord right there in that dark space where you literally couldn't. You ever been in a cave with no light? I mean, you can't see anything. And he said this. He said, okay, that's cool. I feel a lot better. That's great. Now what? And he said he crawled. He started crawling on his hands and knees in pitch blackness for hours, whichever way he sensed he should go. Hours later, he sees the light, and he stands up and he walks out of the cave, and there is his family and friends waiting on him. He still to this day has no idea. I know he's passed, but he didn't have any idea how they even found him or knew where he was. Okay, so here's the cool thing. Check this out. After that, he gave his heart to the Lord. This whole change. He was no longer here just playing music. Now he starts touring with this guy named Billy Graham. I'm not sure if you've ever heard of him. Anybody ever heard of Billy Graham? Started doing music on stage. And get this, they did this thing on MTV with Johnny Cash. And on MTV, Johnny Cash shares about the grace of Jesus Christ that changed his life. And it was denied by millions and accepted by millions. How could Johnny Cash have that platform? Because he had the clout and the lifestyle to prove it. What you're walking through, the pain, the wounds, the shame, can I tell you something? Jesus can turn it all around like that. Let him look under your blanket of shame. Let him look and let him use the hands of healing to heal you right where you are. And when you allow him to do that, you're going to fail again, but that's okay. Because now you got a faith that's made to stick.